Marcus Garvey by W.E.B. DuBois. The Crisis, December 1920. Marcus Garvey was born at St. Ann's Bay, Jamaica, about 1885. He was educated at the public school, and then for a short time attended the Church of England grammar school, although he was a Roman Catholic by religion. On leaving school, he learned the printing trade and followed it for many years. In Costa Rica, he was associated with Markham Taylor in publishing The Bluefields Messenger. Later, he was on the staff of La Nación. He then returned to Jamaica and worked as a printer, being foreman of the printing department of P. Benjamin's Manufacturing Company of Kingston. Later, he visited Europe and spent some time in England and France, and while abroad conceived his scheme of organizing the Negro Improvement Society. This society was launched August 1, 1914 in Jamaica, with these general objects among others: to establish a universal confraternity among the race, to promote the spirit of race pride and love, to administer to and assist the needy, to strengthen the imperialism of independent African states, to conduct a worldwide commercial and industrial intercourse. His first practical object was to be the establishment of a farm school. Meetings were held, and the Roman Catholic bishop, the mayor of Kingston, and many others addressed them. Nevertheless, the project did not succeed, and Mr. Garvey was soon in financial difficulties. He therefore practically abandoned the Jamaica field and came to the United States. In the United States, his movement for many years languished, until at last, with the increased migration from the West Indies during the war, he succeeded in establishing a strong nucleus in the Harlem district of New York City. His program now enlarged and changed somewhat in emphasis. He began especially to emphasize the commercial development of the Negroes, and as an islander familiar with the necessities of ship traffic, he planned the Black Star Line. The public for a long time regarded this as simply a scheme of exploitation, when they were startled by hearing that Garvey had bought a ship. This boat was a former coasting vessel, 32 years old, but it was put into commission with a black crew and a black captain, and was announced as the first of a fleet of vessels which would trade between the colored peoples of America, the West Indies, and Africa. With this beginning, the popularity and reputation of Mr. Garvey and his association increased quickly. In addition to the Yarmouth, he is said to have purchased 2 small boats: the Shadyside, a small excursion steamer which made daily excursions up the Hudson, and a yacht which was designed to cruise among the West Indies and collect cargo in some central spot for the Yarmouth. He had first announced the Black Star Line as a $5 million corporation, but in February 1920, he announced that it was going to be a $10 million corporation, with shares selling at $5. To this, he added in a few months the Negro Factories Corporation, capitalized at $1 million, with 200,000 $1 shares. And finally, he announced the subscription of $5 million to free Liberia and Haiti from debt. Early in 1920, he called a convention of Negroes to meet in New York City from the 1st to the 31st of August, to outline a constructive plan and program for the uplifting of the Negroes and the redemption of Africa. He also took title to 3 apartment houses to be used as offices, and purchased the foundation of an unfinished Baptist church, which he covered over and used for meetings, calling it Liberty Hall. In August 1920, his convention met with representatives from various parts of the United States, several of the West India Islands and the Canal Zone, and a few from Africa. The convention carried out its plan of a month's meetings, and culminated with a mass meeting which filled Madison Square Garden. Finally, the convention adopted a Declaration of Independence with 66 articles, a universal anthem and colors, red, black, and green, and elected Mr. Garvey as His Excellency the Provisional President of Africa, together with a number of various other leaders from the various parts of the Negro world. This, in brief, is the history of the Garvey movement. The question comes: 1. Is it an honest, sincere movement? 2. Are its industrial and commercial projects businesslike and effective? 3. Are its general objects plausible and capable of being carried out? The central and dynamic force of the movement is Garvey. He has with singular success capitalized and made vocal the great and long-suffering grievances and spirit of protest among the West Indian peasantry. Hitherto, the black peasantry of the West Indies has been almost leaderless. Its natural leaders, both mulatto and black, have crossed the color line and practically obliterated social distinction and to some extent economic distinction between them and the white English world on the islands. This has left a peasantry with only the rudiments of education and with almost no economic chances, groveling at the bottom. Their distress and needs gave Garvey his vision. It is a little difficult to characterize the man Garvey. He has been charged with dishonesty and graft, but he seems to me essentially an honest and sincere man, with a tremendous vision, great dynamic force, stubborn determination, and unselfish desire to serve. But also he has very serious defects of temperament and training. He is dictatorial, domineering, inordinately vain, and very suspicious. He cannot get on with his fellow workers. His entourage has continually changed. He has had endless lawsuits and some cases of fisticuffs with his subordinates, and has even divorced the young wife whom he married with great fanfare of trumpets about a year ago. All these things militate against him and his reputation. Nevertheless, I have not found the slightest proof that his objects were not sincere, or that he was consciously diverting money to his own uses. The great difficulty with him is that he has absolutely no business sense, no flair for real organization, and his general objects are so shot through with bombast and exaggeration that it is difficult to pin them down for careful examination. On the other hand, Garvey is an extraordinary leader of men. Thousands of people believe in him. He is able to stir them with singular eloquence, and the general run of his thought is of a high plane. He has become to thousands of people a sort of religion. He allows and encourages all sorts of personal adulation, even printing in his paper the addresses of some of the delegates who hailed him as His Majesty. He dons on state occasion a costume consisting of an academic cap and gown flounced in red and green. Of Garvey's curious credulity and suspicions, one example will suffice. In March 1919, he held a large mass meeting at Palace Casino, which was presided over by Chandler Owen and addressed by himself and Philip Randolph. Here he collected $204 in contributions on the plea that, while in France, W.E.B. DuBois had interfered with the work of his High Commissioner by defeating his articles in the French press and repudiating his statements as to lynching and injustice in America. The truth was that Mr. DuBois never saw or heard of his High Commissioner, never denied his nor anyone's statements of the wretched American conditions, did everything possible to arouse rather than quiet the French press, and would have been delighted to welcome and cooperate with any colored fellow worker.